Hello?
Jason Terrell, what's going on, man?
Hey, buddy.
How you doing?
Good, how are you guys?
Oh, just living the dream one day at a time, you know?
Yeah, did you get your kids to sleep? Or kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to wrangle her up, you know?
Herd her into the
I
bedroom.
get that.
Yeah. And then she sings Frozen to us about 10 times, you know? And here's the thing, like, I told everybody in my family, like, she was not going to have anything to do with Frozen, the Disney movie. And then somehow it slipped in there, dude. And we have to watch the movie 10 times a day.
Oh, yeah, that's horrible.
It's
yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, I know far too much about Disney princesses. So.
For sure.
So what are you up to tonight?
I just got home from church,
Nice.
and lead I helped lead a college age small group for men. So did that tonight, and just got home, and my wife already had our kids asleep, and
Nice.
so now I'm talking to you guys. So,
That's awesome, man.
We're excited to have you on.
Yeah, very pumped.
yeah, I'm excited to be on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, you're a family man. You build some bad race cars for Tin Soldier Race Cars. Race car driver. I mean, there's a lot. That's a lot going on, man.
Yeah, we do a lot. I have two little girls. They're 2 and 4, so that keeps me really busy. And then, and of course, running the business and trying to find balance there. And then this year we decided to put together a 235 car just because we were really excited about that class and just thought it would be fun. And so we're doing all that. I mean, the most important things to me are just trying to treat all my guys well at work, making sure my kids are taken care of, and my wife's happy, and all the normal stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. How did the Tin Soldier shop come about, man? It was just you woke up one day and says, I want to build heavy duty race cars, or what?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. So my dad started drag racing in the '60s, and he started racing NHRA Super Stock prior on the '70s. So he went to a local racetrack called Thornhill in the late '60s and did that. And then he had a '69 Camaro that was a real topo car. And he worked for General Motors, and he kind of lived there in a really cool area of hot rods and stuff. And he called the '69 Camaro the 110 Soldier after there's an old song that talks about all the little tin soldiers going out to battle, and then one rides away. So my dad thought that was a lot like drag racing, and so the name stuck and everything. He's had we have a newer Camaro now that he built in the 80s, and it's still called the Tin Soldier as well. And then I actually I liked race cars and stuff just because Dad was into it, but he'll kill me that I'm saying this, but Super Stock is just a very expensive bracket race. They get to run heads up a few times a year when they run their specific class, and Dad would spend a ton of money in development just being excited about going and running heads up, and I always loved that, but I didn't care for the rest of it. I never cared to put a dial on the car. It just didn't really interest me. So I raced motors cross until I was 21 or 22. I did that. I got a bunch of broken bones and fake teeth to prove it. It was just a really big part of my life. And then I got married, and my wife and I actually got married pretty young. We just turned 22 when we got married, and so I just knew that I would never do anything more, and I was checking out. So we got married, and then I started kind of playing with cars, about a year or so before we got married, just kind of making the car thing my own. You know, like I said, I grew up having a race car in the garage. Like, you know, my friends would come by and they couldn't get past the garage. You know, I was just so used to seeing it. You know, like whatever. And Dad's car is cool. I mean, it's a 305 cubic inch small block, so in super stock you have to run the motor that came in the car, and it's an 85 Camaro, and that 305 inch small block at like 3,100 pounds will go 960s. So it's really awesome. You know, I love it. But so I built in my garage. I built I bought a 3rd gen Camaro because I always liked my dad's 3rd gen. And me and my buddies, we put together just a simple like turbo LS deal. I didn't have a ton of money, you know. I'd sold a lot of my motocross bikes, and I hustled stuff on Craigslist, and you know, all that stuff. And I built a cobbled together turbo kit that if anyone saw it now, they probably wouldn't believe that I was the one that did that, because it was horrible. I mean, it was so bad. I had a flux core MIG welder is what I had, and and we built this thing, and it was like a bone stock LS. Like, I literally didn't have the money to put valve springs in it, didn't have the money to put a cam or anything. Like, literally, like, we did nothing to it. And it had a 76 millimeter Turbonetics turbo when Turbonetics was like big, you know, and it ran like low tens. So and that was fun, and just kind of cobbled together a thing. And at the time of my life, I'd done a bunch of different stuff. I'd worked as a youth pastor. The guy that ran the church told me that I needed to stop playing with cars and take that more seriously, and that kind of really sat with me the wrong way. So I stopped doing that, and then at the time I was in Bible college, and I was pretty far along actually in Bible college, but then I just kind of made a turn, and I was building a car in my garage and stuff, and I just really figured out that I had a real interest in welding, and I enjoyed it. In high school, I had taken metal fabrication and shop. Like, I took 2 years of that in shop class, so I had a pretty decent idea on how to fabricate and stuff. But I always wanted to weld, and my mom wouldn't let me take welding in high school because I had asthma and stuff, which doesn't make sense because I raced motocross, and I didn't really let it affect me. Like, I worked out and did stuff to overcome it. But she didn't want me breathing in those fumes and stuff like that. She wouldn't let me be a welder. Like, I really wanted to do that, and she said no, so I took metal fab instead. But then, you know, fast forward, I'm out on my own, you know, and all that stuff. And so I decided to take a TIG welding class at my local community college. I think it was like $700 or something to do the class. And I just wanted to learn how to weld on race cars. That's all I cared about, you know, and just to be able to weld on my own race car, because I couldn't afford at the time to pay anybody to do anything that I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted nice stuff. So I went to that class, and my teacher was really cool. He would let me take. I was building another turbo kit, and he would let me bring it in. I would tack it all together with the MIG gun, and then I'd bring my parts in. And as long as I was ahead enough in class, he would let me weld my parts out, which was really cool.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, he was a good guy. He was a car guy, too, so he understood what I was doing. So I took 2 semesters of TIG welding, and I ended up just kind of having a knack for it. And I actually got a job offer while I was still in school just to work at a place in TIG weld. So that's what I did. I ended up taking this job offer, and I welded like small electrical parts together, and it was at this dirty factory. And I did that for, about a year or so, and then I ended up getting another job offer, and before I knew it, I was working at really like the best welding shop in we live in northern Kentucky, and it's the best job as a welder without having to travel that you could really get in our little area. It's a phenomenal company to work for, which was good because that meant I got paid a lot more, and I had more money to for race cars. And then I started welding stuff out of my garage and doing more of that. By this time, my wife and I had bought a house, and we had our first daughter, Isaiah. So, some time had passed or whatever. And Isaiah was just, she was fresh, just born. Well, the company that I was working for, it was an oil field company was part of it. So the oil field stuff does a bunch of weird things. And when gas prices do what we want them to do, go down, that really affects oil field service stuff. So, they were like laying off people like in droves, man. Like they were like really getting rid of people. So I was kind of getting nervous and stuff like that. Well, is call it however you want, but as luck would have it, my business partner Brad, me and him kind of knew each other just from cars and Facebook and stuff like that. And he was working at a local shop that kind of did some fab work, and they did like general automotive repair, and then they did some race car stuff. It was kind of like a catch-all kind of shop. Well, he reached out to me and asked for some help welding some stuff. Brad he's a way better fabricator than I could ever be, but he wasn't as good of a welder, So I went to this little shop that he was working at. At the time I was working second shift, so Brad would the shop that he was at was actually like a mile from this place that I work. So I would go up to his shop a little earlier around lunch or so and hang out with him and help him with some welding stuff. And then I would kind of see what he was working on, what he was building. And this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The first time I walked into that shop, it was really dingy and dirty and didn't have a lot of light. And Brad was in there, and it was like he was like this light of this room that was full of darkness. He just didn't, like, nobody realized like how much potential Brad knew that he was really good at what he did, but like nobody else, I just felt like nobody's seen it. Like, man, do you not see how good this kid is at this? And come to find out, Brad actually owned his own off-road shop when he was like, I think he was 19 or 20 when he opened up his first business.
Wow.
Really?
So, and he built off-road buggies, like the rock bouncers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he laid out complete chassis and like did all the suspension geometry and like, really involved stuff like Brad was doing at a young age, So we just kind of started talking, and like, man, when I met him, and to me, the way I believe, I think it was God, but other people would think something different. But just my faith base, I just really felt in my heart like, man, you're going to go into business with this guy.
That's incredible.
And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've heard today, because I'm like, well, I have a really good job. Like, yeah, they're laying people off. They probably won't lay me off, I don't think. Like, this is stupid. Like, why? I mean, I just met this guy. So like, you ever feel like something in your heart, and then you're like, you just like can't shake it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're just like, I cannot run away from this feeling. So it was just wild, I literally could not shake it. So I just called him one night, and there's a guy that wanted me to do a roll cage in like this time attack car. And I didn't have a bender. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I called Brad, and I'm like, hey man, you want to do this together? Maybe we'll just do it out of my garage, and you bend it all up and I'll weld it together. So that's what we did, and it went really well, man. Like we really knocked the project out of the park, and our phones just kept ringing, and so I called him one night, and I was like, man, this is going to sound crazy, but do you want to maybe take this a little bit more serious? And I was like, I said, I don't do anything halfway, and I know you don't either, but I feel like if we team up, we could build some of the best cars in the country. I just see it, and he's like, man, I've been feeling the same way. And so that was kind of the conversation. Brad's on board, and I'm on board. Now I have to get my wife on board, which that's a whole other thing. And it's So
you want to do what? You want
yeah. Like we're finally comfortable. Like we have a nice house. Like
will that pay the light bill money and the trash service and
Yeah.
That's
so. But my wife is awesome. Like she always. And the thing about my wife is, my wife loves Jesus too, and my wife loves like Jesus more than honestly she likes me. So like she always trusts what God puts inside of me more than what I trust, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So I told her, and I was like, I just feel like this. I said it's going to sound crazy, but I feel like this is what God's saying. And what was out of her mouth was like, "Hey, did you hear God right? Are you sure?" and I was like, "Yeah, I think so." She's like, "Well, you should go ask him again." So it was really interesting that night. I had a dream, and again, this is going to sound crazy, but I'm just sharing with you guys. I had a dream that I was standing on the edge of this cliff, and it was a big cliff, and below it was water. Well, I kept like tiptoeing to the edge of this cliff, and eventually I just fell off the side of it, and I hit all these rocks, and then I landed up in the water. Well, then like the dream like fast forwarded again, and I kind of sized it up, and I stepped back a few feet, and then I ran and I jumped.
Wow.
And I landed in the water. So to me, it was kind of like, and for my faith base, and if people don't think the way I do, that's okay. Like this is just what's got me through life, and I believe that it works. But
you can't have
God was kind of telling me, God was telling me exactly. Like He's like, you're going to end up in that water whether you want to or not. Like it's your decision how you get there.
That's awesome.
And so I called Brad, and at the time, Brad, I think Brad believed in God, but he didn't really, it wasn't something that was a priority in his life, which is okay. It's just this is how it was at the time. And I told him all this, and he's like, man, I don't know. He's like, I think you're stupid, for leaving your really good job and like do all this, and so. But then we started looking for buildings, and we ended up finding a building that was about halfway in between where he was working at the time and where I was working, and it was kind of in the ghetto, and it was like $600 a month, and like 1,000 square foot or something. It was nothing, and so we took the money that we made from the job that we did in my garage. We used that as a down payment and to pay our first month's rent. And we did all that because my wife put on stipulations on me. She's like, you can do this, but you can't take any of our money to do it. You got to hustle to do it. So I'm like, okay, well, fair enough.
Sure.
So that's what we did. We took that money and we paid that. And I think after we had paid out everything we needed to do to get the electric, all that crap, and just everything, I think we had like $500 left or $300 somewhere around there. So we went to Harbor Freight. And we bought everything that we thought that we would need that we could afford for $300 or $400.
Oh my gosh,
that's awesome.
And then my dad gave us like a 30-year-old air compressor that would lock up sometimes. And then I had a TIG welder that I had bought off Craigslist. It was like a Chinese TIG welder. That's what I was using in my garage. Brad had a little Miller Diversion, which we actually still have. And then, we decided that we was going to build race cars, and we moved into this. It's just funny.
And sir, the story you're telling is just, it is the feel-good story. I mean, Harbor Freight tools. You're building cars now that are breaking records. I mean, it's unreal, man. And you're so solid. You're so solid with it. You're talking about your faith. And, man, I don't know you very well. And first time I ever been on the premises with you was over at Brian Davis's and Chad's and Peso and Curtis Martin's race, the Battle of the Titans over there. And they had you, I don't know, I shouldn't say they had you, but you did the invocation there both days. And I said, I know that guy. That's the guy from Tin Soldier, he's a bad dude. dude, you stood up there and you got my attention. Like, holy cow, it was very real. I mean, it was very genuine. Blew me away, man. Blew me
Very strong
away.
presence, yeah.
For sure. Not everybody talks at the racetrack at the races I go to that I like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get it.
yeah. So, and it blew me away. It was very eye opening. I mean, you said that you told everybody that they were basically, I'm going to butcher what you said, but you told everybody basically everybody was unique and they needed to pull their car covers back and portray the person you want to be. And I was like, boom, like, wow, like that's another level of, that's getting deep, man. And that's awesome, dude.
That's great.
It's awesome.
Thank you. But I just, and honestly, I think, and people may or may not believe me, but like, the reason that I want to build race cars and we want to build race cars is, I just want people to know that they're loved, regardless of what their background is, regardless of where they're at in life. I believe that God is not, like a lot of times we think that he's up there with this magnifying glass. He's trying to direct, light to catch us on fire, or something. And that's not it. Like, man, the God of the universe, like, he made us for a specific reason, just like my shop is full of all these really cool tools. Well, all those tools are made for a specific purpose. And when I can't use my bead roller to bend pipe, like that don't work, but when you use the bead roller, it makes really cool pieces, but it's not going to do that on tubing.
Exactly.
So, and people are the same way, we're just tools in God's toolbox, and like he wants us to live, he just wants to love us, and I think the church has really overcomplicated that, in my opinion. And yeah, so that's kind of why we do what we do. And I like sharing our story because I think everybody on this planet, we're all dreamers. We all have things that we want to do. Well, at a certain point in our life when we're young, like, people tell us that we can do anything. Well, then at some point, like, the world gets a hold of us and starts telling us to think logically, and I don't want that for my life. I don't want to think logically. I don't want the people around me to think logically. Like, I want to go and change some stuff, and shake some stuff up. And that's why, we do what we do. Like, when we moved into that little building, we had no jobs lined up. We took all of our money that we had made from that job and we went in, and I remember the first, we were kind of started our Facebook account, and that weekend, Brad and I's goal was to we're like, man, we're going to get like a deposit for a cage, and so this boy had messaged us, and it was like a diesel truck, and it wasn't really even something that we were super excited about, but we had to have a job,
Yeah.
And he had already bought like a cage kit and stuff, and so anyway, him and his dad come to our shop, and which is like,
right.
There's like 3 tools in it, and everything is not moved in, and we're going to build race cars, And it was Dad and him were kind of like looking around, and they're like, where's this? Where's that? Like, well, we don't have it yet,
Just sign here, you'll be ready soon.
Yeah, he'll be here soon. Like, when you bring your truck back, we'll have more stuff. But I need you to pay me your deposit so I can go buy more tools.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, but it was funny, like, his name's Logan, was our first customer. I'll never forget him. And his dad actually knew my dad. So once his dad figured out who I was, there was like instant trust just because of my dad, of who he is, and we stole his name, which he says he's going to sue us for that at some point. Yeah, for copyright infringement or something. But yeah, so that's what happened. And we from that day forward, we were in the race car business. We've been we just celebrated our 4th year. It's still May, so we opened in May. So this would be the 4th year. we've never had to go without work. Our wait list is always exceedingly long. Within Brad and I, when we started, we both had other jobs, so we would go in. I would get off of my job about 3:00, and I would work till 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Brad would get off at around 5, and he would do the same. And then I had to be back at my factory job at 6 a.m. And then if we were on overtime, I had to be there at 4. So
wow.
We ran without sleep for about 6 months.
Yeah.
Doing
and
what
then had
you
a
love.
baby. Yeah, I had to have my daughter, in diapers, and it was just, it was definitely everybody was on board to make this thing happen. My wife, just being exceedingly gracious to, I'm chasing this thing that nobody understands, that thinks that I'm crazy, but about 4 months in, we had more than enough work, and we went full time with it. And that was about the time that we met Jack Vanover. So we had kind of done, we had done cages and stuff like that. And we had done some that was really it. We had really just done some 850 cages and things like that, turbo kits. But Jack Vanover's kind of another funny story.
This guy.
When we opened.
This guy.
You explain Jack.
I never met Jack, and it's kind of funny. I said to Jimmy Plimpton, come and help my dad and me on my dad's car last year, and I said we were talking about just all things drag racing, me and Jim, and I said, everybody's posting up this picture, Jim, of this black Mustang, and it's just is it one guy's car? Is it a bunch of guys' car? And I didn't really realize, and this was only a year ago. This is only a year ago, so this is kind of how out of touch I was with this, with Jack Vanover. But holy cow! And he explained to me who he was, and passed away, and heavy duty story, man. And from what I know, you guys had a really good relationship with him, and you're starting to explain that. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Jack was the most underestimated and underrated nitrous tuner around. I mean, the people that knew, they knew how good he was, and he did development for big nitrous companies, but he's just this quiet, reserved hillbilly. That's the best way to describe him. And just a gentle soul, that didn't care if anybody knew how good he was. He just wanted to do it because he wanted to do it. When we first opened, it was right around Ohio Valley's prize fight. So Ohio Valley is only about it's about an hour or so away from us, and as luck would have it, the weekend of Ohio Valley, my little quirks is I'm actually an ordained minister, so I end up marrying a lot of my buddies, So one of my buddies was having a wedding in Louisville, and I was doing the ceremony, so I had to get down there early for the rehearsal and all that stuff. And but the next day was his wedding, but prize fight was in the morning. So I told Brad, I was like, man, I'm just going to go over to the track. I'm going to spend a few hours, and I'm just going to, walk around. We didn't even have business cards yet. And I was like, I'm just going to walk around and talk to people and see, what's going on and this and that. So I got to the racetrack, and I had it in my mind that I wanted to meet a guy named Kent, which is crazy. It's a whole other, we could have a whole other podcast talking about all this, but Kent actually ended up passing away about a year after Jack did. He was like Jack's best friend, which is it's a whole crazy story, but we'll talk about Jack now. But I just had in my mind that I wanted to meet Kent. So I was just walking around talking to people and hanging out, and I saw this really nice, Fox body Mustang, and I walked over to it, and Kent, the guy that I was wanting to meet, climbed out from underneath of it. And he knew me from Facebook and just me posting pictures of welding and stuff like that. And so I introduced myself, and I was like, hey man, I just want to let you know, like, you know, me and my partner Brad are, you know, we're going to start taking what we're doing a little more serious, and we've rented a building, and we just signed a lease on it, you know, the whole spiel. And he's like, man, you need to meet Jack. And I was like, okay, well, you know, I need to meet Jack. Where's this Jack? You know. So I walked into Jack's trailer, and like I said, if I can explain it to me, he was just a real gentle soul. He had these Coke bottle glasses that was real thick, and you know, just an older guy, you know. And I walked in and introduced myself, and Jack kind of got right to the point. He's like, hey, can you show me some pictures of what you do and what you've done? And so I started showing him some pictures of a turbo kit that I had done in my garage, and he's like, man, you did all that? And I was like, yeah, I did. Yes, sir. You know, and he's like, can you do that for me? And I was like, yeah, sure. You know, that's the goal here, you know? Yeah. So, and what I figured out was, like, everyone from like 6 trailers around was all coming to talk to Jack, and they were all bringing spark plugs to him. So what I figured out real quick was Jack was the spark plug whisperer. And, you know, everybody was bringing their spark plugs to Jack. I mean, everybody. So then I knew, I'm like, man, I've really connected with the right person, you know? So about a month later, Kent called me and was like, hey, Jack needs a nitrous bottle and a couple other things, like, mounted in his car. He doesn't want to necessarily have to take it anywhere because it's just some small stuff. Would you guys be willing to drive down here, and we'll pay you to drive down? And you just come to his shop and do it, and he's got a TIG welder and everything you need. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? You know, and at this point, you know, I was still working my regular job, so I took off. I took some vacation time and took off on a Friday, and Brad did the same, and we drive down to the hills of Kentucky. And Jack lives in the hills. I mean, the hills.
Yeah.
And we go to his little shop, and you know, in the middle of all these hills is this beautiful X275 Mustang in this little shop. You know,
wow.
Like, people think that you can't do this stuff on a budget, but which obviously it's expensive. We can get through all that, but like, dude, Jack was doing it. You know, like, he assembled his own engines. He built his own transmissions. He, you know, obviously assembled the rear end. I mean, Jack did everything on this thing. Bischoff did a lot of the machine work for Jack, but Jack did everything.
Wow.
And Jack went 448 at 159 on a plate or something. Is that?
He went, so Jack, the fastest Jack went was like 450s, like low 450s, and it was on a plate. He was a big block nitrous combo, but that was back when 450s was like,
flying.
You know, doing
right.
it.
Yeah.
And, you know, which is so funny, like that little area, like Martin Conley lives, I don't know, 15 minutes from Jack Vanover, which he also had a nitrous big block car that was born in the 50s. So it's like this interesting, like, little area of eastern Kentucky where all these fast race car guys are from. Like, Willard Kinser's from that same little area, and like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, so we go down there, we do all that, and Jack, like, kind of pulls Brad and I aside, and he looked over the work that we just did, and before I mounted the bottle, like, he had this, like, kind of cheap old Link, or it was an old Miller welder, which I actually ended up buying it from his wife. I own this welder now. It was a Miller Econo TIG, is what it was, and I never used it before, so I set up some metal, and I just did like a little test pass just to make sure, because someone had told Jack that the welder was broken, or it had some issue. So I used it, and I welded just like this little T-joint up, and I got done welding it, and I picked it up, and I handed it to Jack. I was like, Jack, you know, weld's fine. There's nothing wrong with this welder. And he's like, man, you can weld like I've never seen. And he took this piece of metal, and everybody we met that day, I think he like carried it in his pocket, and he was like showing everyone.
That's great.
And it was really funny. So before we left, he pulled us aside, and he's like, man, I want you guys to build me a whole car. And
oh my gosh.
Jack's car that he was racing at the time, the black car that you see all the pictures of, it was a ladder bar car, and Jack was really wanting to do a stock suspension car. So he asked us, he's like, do you want to build this for me? And we actually tried to talk Jack out of this. Okay, so we're in this room with Jack, and we're looking at pictures of different cars, like Tim Lyons stuff. We're looking at Racecars stuff, just like all the guys that was really doing really cool stuff, and still is doing really cool stuff. And we were both very, very honest with Jack. We're like, Jack, we've never done a car up to this point at this level. We're not your guys,
right?
And he's like, no, but you are. Like, you're my guys. Like, we're doing it. And I'm like, I don't know, Jack. So he's like, you're building me a car. Like, I believe that you can do it. So
how'd that make you feel? I mean, incredible, right?
Well, Jack was like, yeah. I was like, and Jack at the time, he was, really number 1 or 2 in X. I mean, he was the guy, and
he's telling you you're the guy.
Yeah, we're like, okay. So,
that's great.
It was kind of an interesting thing, because like in your life, sometimes you pray for stuff, and like I've always loved X275. It's still like my favorite class. I just love it, and we wanted to build X275 cars, so. We're basically at this point, the timeline, we're about 3 months into our business, and, someone's basically asking us to build a turnkey, well, not, Jack would plumb and wire it, but, a really nice roller for X275, or like, so your mind starts working, like, man, this shouldn't happen like this.
Yeah.
We don't have the credibility. You just go through your mind of why you shouldn't do something. And we tried to go through our mind of telling Jack why we shouldn't do something. And, he just wouldn't take no for an answer, and he called me. It was about a couple weeks later, and he called me. He's like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Man, at the time we were doing a small group at my house, like now at the shop we do a men's Bible study once a month. Mm-hmm. Well, I used to do that at my house. That's kind of how that got started, and I was just getting out of that. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I said I had a Bible study at my house. I was like, that sounds funny, but that's what we was doing. And he's like, man, that you're building a car for me, and that's why. He's like, I want a car that God's blessed. And I was like, okay, sweet, Yeah. And like I've always been like, a lot of people will tell you, like, in your business, like, you never want to talk about your faith, you never want to talk about it because it'll turn people off. And we didn't want that, and it ended up giving us the best job we could have had.
Yeah, that's who you are.
Yeah, it worked out. And a couple weeks later, Jack had found this old Fox body in a field down there. The guy was going to turn into a round track car, and he brought us the shell that we ended up cutting up, and we kind of planned the whole car out. Jack wanted some stuff that was different, and it's some stuff at the time that there were some people doing it, but he had his own theories and things of how he wanted to build the chassis, and we kind of worked alongside of it with him, and we had the car right before lights out. I guess I don't know what year that would be, so 2016, I guess. I could be wrong. That might be 2015, but we had the car rolling. So the chassis was done, and it was ready for like tin and carbon. But one funny little story before I get on this is hilarious. So the chassis was like done, and we were at the shop and we was just working, and there's this knock on the door, and we open it, and it's this older gentleman that's got some crazy hair, and he's like, "Hey, is Jack here?" And I was like, "No, Jack's not here yet. Like, he's coming up today." And he's like, "Well, my name's Kevin. I'm going to meet Jack here." So we start talking to him, and I'm like,
"How you doing?"
And like, yeah, how you doing? Like, what's going on? And he's kind of quiet, like, looking around the shop, and Brad like pulls me to the side. He's like, "Jason," and he's like whispering to me. He's like, "I think that's Kevin Neal." Yeah. And I'm like, "The Kevin Neal?" He's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And like, so we start talking and we figure out it's Kevin Neal. And now like Kevin's like one of my buddies, you know, but like at the time it was like, hang on, Kevin Neal standing in our shop, you know?
Yeah.
And,
that's cool.
So,
that's insane.
So Kevin's there and, he's waiting on Jack and then Jack gets there and, like Kevin's looking over the car and he's just complimenting how nice this car is. I mean, he loves it. And then he's like, yeah, it looks like it's about ready for tin and like carbon, you know? And I was like, yeah, we got to order that stuff. And he's like looking around. He's like, man, where's all your tools to do the tin work? And we're like, well, you know, funny thing about that, they're actually still at the store. You know, we haven't bought them yet.
Oh, man.
They're on the layaway program.
Yeah. And if you know anything about Kevin, like, that didn't faze Kevin a bit, you know, like he's like, oh, okay, no problem. But, you know, we went to lunch and now like Kevin's like, you know, I love Kevin, you know, it's just a kind of a funny like thing that happened. But, so, right before, so we were actually going to go to, we're going to go to Lights Out with Jack and crew on the black car. And about a week before, Lights Out is when Jack passed away. It was just very unexpected, very, you know, nobody's seen it coming, you know, just this blind side. So that was, you know, that was really hard. You know, I mean, we just become really, really close with him, you know, and, you know, he was a person that believed in us the first, you know, and,
that's awesome.
And a lot of our drive comes from that, you know, like I have a picture of Jack, that we have quite a few pictures of Jack on our walls and in our office. And, you know, I can't wait to get to heaven, and tell him all about what we did, you know, because of what he planted the seed. He really did. And, you know, so much of our business from that point forward came because, you know, people knew that we were building a car for Jack Vanover, and they're like, you know, if Jack Vanover trusts you to do this, then I trust you to do this.
That's awesome.
So he just gave us something that he didn't even know that he really gave, you know.
Yeah.
And we just don't, you know.
Just the fact that he wasn't in your life for very long, and what came of it, it's kind of almost like he was put there, you know, just at the right time for maybe a specific reason for you, you know.
He was, and which is really the whole thing, like when Jack passed, like, you know, obviously we had to communicate with his wife and figure out the car and all this stuff, and, you know, and just the business side of the thing, you know, which is, that all sucks, you know, it's never fun to have to deal with that.
Right,
but
right.
It, you know, his wife knew that I was a Christian, and she called me and she's like, I know what you meant to Jack. She's like, I know what you boys meant to Jack, and I know how much he loved you, even though you didn't know him that long.
Wow.
She said, would you do his funeral?
Oh, wow.
So I actually got to do Jack's funeral, that was such an honor, you know. But
absolutely,
it's kind of funny. Like we started out this business we wanted to tell, you know, a lot of times we think, like, sharing the gospel or sharing the good news of Jesus, like, we have to go all the way around the world to find people that haven't heard it in the way that you're going to present it. And that's not really true. Like, it's everywhere, you know? So, and our goal was, you know, I just want drag racers to know how much they're loved. And, so I got to do Jack's funeral, and she was like, you can say literally whatever you want. I don't care what you do, honey. She's like, I just trust you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
So
that's incredible.
We just got to tell all these people, like, how much God loved them, and, you know, and, all these big name drag racers in this room. And it was just, you know, for as bad of a situation as it was, like, you know, really, like, his family and his wife, Lavina, his wife's name, and she's just such an awesome person. Like, she really, like, she really took something that was so bad and she tried to do the best she could with it, you know, and really, like, I think that's one of the reasons why Jack's legacy is so powerful, is because, like, you know, we don't want to forget him because of what he did, and just his family's so awesome and his wife's awesome. And, you know, I mean, she still,
they are,
to this day, she like checks on my kids and like, you know, to this day.
That's
you know, so, it's just really cool. And, but yeah, Jack was just definitely like, you know, he was the catapult that we needed. And like you said, it was just the right timing, you know.
Yeah.
And now, now Plimptons have that car, right?
They do. So we've it's kind of went through different stages. It's actually, and we haven't really posted pictures of it yet, you know, because Jim and Jimmy, I love them, man. They're dear friends as well.
The cool
guys. They're still trying to they're still racing the Fairmont. So, you know, there's a lot to do with that, and you're kind of figuring out but basically the Fast Jack car now is a no time car. And we've saved a lot of the things that was innovative to Jack. But we've updated a lot of stuff too, and you know, it would never fit X or anything now. I think when people finally see the car, like it, you know, it's pretty awesome, you know, because the way that Jimmy thinks and the way that Jim thinks, they kind of really align with the way that we think. Like,
right,
you know, we want to try innovative things, even if it's wrong. You know, like if you don't try something, you don't know. You know, so. We've done a lot of unique things with that, and yeah, I'd say I don't have an exact timeline of when that thing would come out because, like I said, you know, still racing the Fairmont and doing incredibly well with that, and just kind of aligning all of our timelines are, you know, but yeah, so yeah, they own it, so it will race, and probably when that car goes on the racetrack, I'll probably be an emotional mess. So.
As anybody would.
Yeah. You told me over to Martin, you told me that something about your dad told you that to start this business you had to give these cars to capable people, and basically everything would take care of itself. I mean, that's what's happening, man. I mean, holy cow, I said before, you guys have cars that are breaking records. I mean, holy moly, man. I mean, the long list of them.
You guys got a real good thing going on.
A real good thing.
Thank you. Yeah, we're okay at what we do, and then there's we just have a really long list of awesome customers that are very, very smart people, and you know, they're just workers. You know, like, you know, obviously this is a fun thing that we do, but most people just do not understand the drive and really the sacrifice that it takes to run one of these cars.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unbelievable, you know. And I love like Jim and Jimmy, like the father-son thing, like that's, you know, that's one of the reasons they're so near and dear to my heart. Like I love those guys because of what, you know, what they're trying to accomplish as a family. Like that's awesome, you know, and just getting to work with Devar and Waterman, and, you know, just all the people that we get to work with. We're just so fortunate, and they make us look good, you know, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, but, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Talk about like a crazy turn of events from you dropping out of what you were doing to take one semester of welding to, you know, seeing Brad in some garage and to what you have now. I mean, talk about an intuition and just seeing your guys' work. It speaks for itself. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How many?
Thank you.
How many employees you guys have over to the shop now?
That's why I wanted to know that.
So we got 3 guys other than Brad and myself.
Full-time guys?
So, yep, full-time guys, and then we have one part-time guy that his name's Dalton, and Dalton just graduated high school, so he was kind of interning with us while he's in high school. So he's kind of the grunt guy at the moment. He does a lot of prep work and stuff, and my guys that we could not do what we do without them now. So to introduce you to all of them, which I think is important because Tin Soldier Racecars is, you know, obviously it takes Brad and I, but with the rest of our team, we couldn't do it. So, Joran, is the other welder, that works for us. Joran, is actually a childhood friend of mine. He's a little younger than I am. Joran's like 22. So kind of a quick story on Joran is, you guys picked the wrong guy to be on your podcast. I have stories for everything.
Kind of what we're looking for, man.
So Jordan raced motorcycles too. He raced motocross, but he's a little younger than me. So I would pick Jordan up and take him to the dirt bike track, and that's how we kind of developed our relationship. And I had a big red motocross van that we called the Red Dragon. It was this old, like, 90s GMC van that was huge, like a 3500 van. It looked like, you know, you were getting free candy out of it. And I gave that to Jordan as his first car. Like, he drove that thing to high school. So somebody had given it to me, and I just believe, like, when somebody gives you something, you, like, can't sell it. You have to just, you know, pay it for it.
Yeah.
And so Jordan got that as his first car, and then he was actually racing and traveling and doing, like, arena cross, which is like the step down from supercross, and he was trying to get his supercross license, and he wrecked bad and blew out his ankle. So he came hobbling into the shop one day, and he couldn't race, and it was when Brad and I actually first started. Like, we weren't even working full time, and he was like, "Hey, you know, can I sweep the floor and you teach me how to weld?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. There's a lot of floors to sweep." So yeah, that's what we did, and he actually was the one that cut apart Jack's car. Like, he did that.
Wow.
So he's been with us from the beginning. We, you know, we laugh all the time that we sold him on the dream, you know, because we didn't have any money to pay him, you know, when he first started. now I think we paid him pretty well, but, like, he was in it, you know, and so and then we taught him how to weld, and now he's, you know, he welds more than I do now. And sometimes I'm more of a glorified secretary, I think, than anything, in lining up the jobs and talking with people. But so that's Jordan, and he's the youngest, so he's 22. And then my good buddy Jay, we call him Jay Bird. I've known him a long time as well. But Jay used to mess with hot rods, and he was a machinist, and just he makes handmade knives that are just these incredible works of art. So Jay's been with us a couple years, and he is our fit and finish guy. Nobody can fit tin and carbon better than Jay Bird. Like, I would put him up against anybody, you know, like his attention to detail, you know, is just, it's through the roof, you know. And he's such a vital part, because, like, you know, sometimes when you run a business and you own a business, you're always thinking about time, you know, and being sensitive to the customer's budget, and, you know, all that stuff that goes into running a business. So, you know, Jay Bird, he doesn't think about stuff because he just works there, you know. So he makes sure that he's able to consciously spend the time that these things need. And I encourage anybody to look at a car that we've done and, like, really look at it, you know, and those nice little details. That's all Jay. You know, Jay he's phenomenal at that. And then our other guy, his name's Jeremy. Jeremy, we call him Shrek because he's huge. He's like this big burly man, and he drives this, like, old square body that's loud, and we always tell him that he's just like freedom driving down the road. And
freedom driving down the road.
He's awesome, man. He's like a walking stereotype. Like, that's, I love him for it. You know, like, that's who he is. And he was an iron worker before he came to us, and so we had to take away his big hammer and give him a smaller one. Yeah, he does. Jeremy does all the tube work now. So Brad still lays out all the chassis, all the suspension geometry, all that stuff that we call Brad the big brain. You know, he does all the stuff that matters, engine placement, just all the chassis layout. That's all Brad. And then after he does that, then Jeremy kind of goes to work. So what we've done for us, which I think it's not unique, but it works really good for us, is everybody in our shop specialized in something.
Yeah.
So that way, like, throughout the process, we're always doing kind of the same thing over and over again, because repetition makes it better. Mm-hmm. So we try to keep everybody doing what they're good at and what is in their wheelhouse. Like I
Very
was,
smart.
it works out good, so we're trying to, it's hard to have an assembly line like a Bickle or Haas or something like that for the small tire stuff, because we're kind of always building something different.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to streamline it, but we're doing our best to do that. And it's not perfect. We don't meet every deadline. We don't meet every expectation. We're not perfect people. We're not the perfect chassis shop. We all have our qualms, but it's definitely getting better, of trying to figure that out as we go and just being more efficient. And, and it works well like that, So,
yeah. I think the big thing, like you're saying, is if these things these guys are doing are in their wheelhouse. I mean, that's awesome that they can do something that they've done, 1,000 times, and it's not that it gets mundane and stuff, but I can knock that out. It's not a problem. That's what I do. You know what I mean? And
when we were final assembling the Gano sled, Curtis and Doug's new car, and dude, that thing, like, we don't use rivets like to put carbon and stuff in. One of our customers early on, like I don't know, it's just kind of a running joke, but we don't use rivets because I just think it looks cheap. So it's all held in by a little tiny, like, 832 button head. So I had to call Jeremy over. I was putting something in and I couldn't do it myself. And, like, he's got these big, massive hands, and he's, like, trying to fiddle with this 832 button head. And he walks away, man. He's like, that's why I don't do final assembly.
Yeah. That's awesome. That car, that Chevelle, man, and it was on the dyno this week. That thing is stupid, dude. How long did you guys have that car? Did you have it for like a year and a half or something? I mean, it is perfect.
We had it was right about a year. It was kind of a whole, it was a whole journey with that car.
Man.
Yeah, it was, and it had two different motors in it, and Curtis was the original Section 8 got wrecked, so we took about a month off of the car and fixed Section 8, and then didn't touch the Chevelle for probably 3 or 4 months just to kind of get, because we worked really hard to get that Mustang fixed. So, some of my customers, they were very understanding that we were trying to get that done, and then we tried to pay it back, the next few months and get caught up of where we needed to be, and then when Curtis was kind of in the right spot, we kind of went back to work on the Chevelle, and it was an interesting. It was kind of a crazy build, but it ended up. I mean, it turned out very, very nice, and Curtis and Doug, they're just really good customers. They trust us. They literally, like, they don't care what we do. If that's what we want to do it. And that's the best people to work for. You don't want to work for somebody that's standing over your shoulder. So that's one of the reasons the car turned out the way it did. So.
Yeah, and it's a real car, man. That thing is not a Mustang; it is a real car.
It's
awesome.
Huge, man. I was.
Yeah.
I was. It's big and long and wide, and it's got sexy curves. And
yeah. What's the best part of the build for you? I mean, do you like all like the rough-in work, like getting it set up? Do you hate the finish work? I mean, what do you like?
So my two favorite things, obviously I love to weld. Like I love when a chassis is tacked up, and all my like Jeremy and Brett, and Brett still does some tube fit up too, and man, those guys, they just do such a phenomenal job. It all fits up so good, and I love putting my headphones in, getting there before everyone else, and kind of rocking out and welding out some stuff. I love that. That's kind of my happy place. And as the business grows, I don't get to do that as much as I wish that I did. But that's definitely my happy place. And then I like doing tin work too, like making bead roll panels and stuff. We always joke with the guys, like I always tell them that I want to start bead rolling like Jesus's and into the panels, like Jamie Jordan.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I could bead roll a nice straight line, but as far as intricate shapes, I'm not there yet. So I like doing that, and then I love final assembly. Me and Jay kind of do that together. We'll typically start putting all the carbon panels and stuff like that in. We don't plumb and wire them that often.
No.
Most people can do that themselves, or now there's kind of a lot of guys that are dedicated to plumbing and wiring race cars. Like that's their business,
And there's
so it just makes sense.
There's some guys that are showing up to shops now and got full Sprinter vans, ready to rock.
Yeah, and to me, man, like I would rather to the point of specializing, like Blake, a guy named Blake is who wired the Ghetto Sled, and that was someone that was outsourced by Curtis and Doug. But Blake, man, did a phenomenal job. He used these connectors and all these things. I didn't even know that they existed.
Yeah.
So, and now with the EFI cars and just how complicated stuff is, it's like, you get, in my opinion, you're getting a better job when you go to a guy that's specialized to do that. And I think as a chassis shop, it's our job to work with whoever you're going to have do that, so that like on the Ghetto Sled, for instance, like Blake come up and spent 5 or 6 hours with us just to make sure we had tabs and things like that where he wanted them, and just working together is such a big thing, and not everybody knows everything, man. Like if you think that, you're wrong. There's people that are better than you.
Yeah. That was real rough when we were building my dad's car. It was a long process, but we'd bring it back and we wouldn't have a tab for something, and it just got it painted. So you're putting the grinder to it, trying to get something welded on, and if you can coordinate all that stuff right in house, that's huge,
Yeah, and man, like to really build one right, nobody could afford to do it. Like, seriously, what I mean? Like you'd have to, to really build one, you have to build the complete car, plumb wire it completely, make it run, like everything, and then blow it apart. And you would say that to most people, and they're like, "You're nuts."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Well, no. Like if you really want like a top of the line, like show quality race car, that's what has to happen." And the percentage of people that can really afford to do that, it's just not. There's not that many.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's just what it is.
So your guys' 235 car, the white one with gold wheels, beautiful hot rod.
Yep. Thank you.
What's the deal with that? Is that kind of your guys' shop car? Is it kind of everybody works on that?
Kind of. So that was actually Doug Wagner's car. That was the Bad Apple.
Oh, was it really? Okay.
It was. So we actually we did the 10-soldier trade your race car in program. We just we didn't know we had it, but we did do that. We actually took it in. Doug had the shell. It was just it was actually already had the cage and stuff in it, tube front end, and Doug and his buddy had done it. It's just it had a Wolf Racecraft 25.5 kit in it. It was a nice little car, but they had taken the suspension off of it, and it was just this shell, and he couldn't get rid of it. Sorry, Doug, I know that you loved that it was green, but that green was absolutely horrible. So I think that was one of the reasons Doug couldn't get rid of it, because it's just this. I mean, Doug loved that green, but it was terrible.
Yeah, I remember that car for sale now. I remember that car.
It was really.
It was a good deal
really
too.
Cheap,
Yeah.
I think Dougie only wanted like $5,000 for it. So we did some wheeling and dealing, and we had everything at the shop to put this thing together as a roller. We had one of our Battle Ready 8.8 kits. We had a housing that was already done with axles, and then I had a Racecraft front end, like all the K-member A-arms, all that stuff. And this was stuff that I was needing to sell anyway. I was like, there's just crap that was sitting at the shop,
Yeah.
And so when Doug posted it up, me and Brad were like, well, shoot, man, we have everything to make this thing roll. Why don't we'll just put it together, and we'll clean it up a little bit, and we'll sell it as a roller, and that make our parts easier to get rid of, and we'll make a little money on it. Well, as you probably can figure out, when you own a business that builds race cars, you never have time to build a race car.
Yeah.
So we Doug brought it down, and we started looking at it, like, man, this whole thing, like, it's not bad. Like, it's actually a nice little car, you know, and it's a really good class car because it's you know, relatively heavy, you know, it's not like it's going to be super light. And John had started the DXP deal, like, that's actually was a local series to us. It used to be called X235, and they ran it at a local track by us. It was promoted by Charlie Taylor, and Charlie had worked with John to help bring it to a national level. And, you know, all the time people come in our shop and they complain that there's no entry level heads up class. They're like, it does not exist. You can't do this on a budget. Like, it's not possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So we kind of looked at this car, and Brad and I both love LS engines. Like, I mean, I'm not this guy that like thinks they're the best thing ever, but when you're on a budget, like, they work very well for what they are.
For sure.
Right.
So we kind of got this combo together that we thought would work, and then we kind of brought John Booley in. John's real close to us, and then we know the guys at Bryan Tooley Racing really well.
That's what I was just going to say. For you guys being in Kentucky, you have a hell of a resource right there with Little John Motorsports and them. Big resource.
Yeah, with Tooley and all those guys. I mean, I don't know why, but they like us. So we kind of called everyone and said we had a bad idea, and so we like, well, let's put together a 235 car and just really kind of see if this budget heads-up class really exists. And that's what we did, man. And I will say, like, it's a nice car, and obviously we're capable people. Like, we have a shop, but that was kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to use a car that was already built, because anybody could have bought that car for $5,000, right? Like, it's nothing. It's just a 25.5 Mustang. There's nothing special about it. So the roller was relatively cheap. You know, really, after the rear end and everything was under it, is, you know, a decent roller for under $10,000, which is, you know, that's a lot of money, but in the world of drag racing, that's not much.
No,
you know,
exactly.
So and then we were actually going to do it with a stock 6-liter is what we was going to put in it to begin with. We already had the motor, but then before we started the shop, I had an engine built, and it was a stock block 6.0. It's got Wiseco pistons, and like decent set of rods, and it's still a stock crank, but it was a stroke 6.0, so it's a 4.8 crank with a 6.0 block.
Okay.
And I had this thing built like 5 years ago now, and when I started the shop, I just needed money to get this business off the ground. So I sold it to one of my buddies, and he never used it. So he's like, man, just give me what I paid for it, and you can have it back. You know, so that's what I did. I just gave him the money back. I was like, I got this interest-free loan.
Cool.
And so we got that back, and then we got a stock set of cylinder heads, and we sent them up to Bischoff. And BES is like 45 minutes from us, and we have a good relationship with Tony, and Tony ran like his CNC program on it. And then it's got a Holly Dominator with all the bells and whistles there. And then the transmission in it's a Power Glide. Brad had taken apart a lot of racing Power Glides, but he had never built one. So this book comes to the shop, like we had ordered something from Summit, and then there's this book in there. And the book, no lie, is titled How to Build a Racing Power Glide.
Really?
And I'm like, I take it out, I'm like, Brad, did you order this book? And he's like, I want to put together our glide, and I never done it, so I needed a book. So he wrote a book on how to put a racing power glide together, and that's the power glide that's in our car.
Is it pretty much page for page? Is it legit from the book? Really?
It's legit. Like he's. It's funny. We always joke with Brad, but Brad's actually a genius. So like he's legit is a genius. So if we always joke that he's so smart and stuff like that because he's so smart and his brain's so big. Yeah. But yeah, he bought that book, and he built the power glide that's in our car.
You heard it here, folks. 10 Soldier Racecars builds racing power glide.
Yeah, just one.
They have built one.
Like We vote whiskey. That's what's in the car today.
That's awesome.
So we did that, and then of course, we used our 8.8 rear end package, which is we sell that package. Like, you can call us today or order off the website. It's $1,250. It's you send us your housing, we do all the bracing, put our lower control arm brackets, all that stuff on it, and and we've been like, not with our car, but we have customer cars that have been 10 60 foots with an 8.8.
Really?
They work for what they are. So that's what we did, man. We and Brad put the motor together. The short block was kind of already assembled, but he took it back apart and checked some stuff and changed a few things, and then bolted the heads that Bischoff did onto it. And we ported our intake, and I just tried to do it honestly as cheap as possible.
So you're saying DXP 235? Do you truly believe it's a budget-friendly class after doing all this?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah,
for sure.
Our
cool.
car is not special. It's
cool.
It's still a hydraulic roller LS. It's still got stock. It's got stock rockers in it.
Really?
It's got trunnion upgrades, but they're stock GM rockers. It's a stock casting GM cylinder head. Bischoff's CNC program is, I think he charges $1,000 or $1,200 to do the CNC program on it. So it's not like it's got a set of trick flows. That's cheap. For what it is.
Yeah.
It does have a nice turbo on it. Like right now, it's got a Precision, the Ultra Street 76, which we carry a little bit more weight to run that turbo. But I had a 88 millimeter sitting at the shop that we weren't using for anything. It was our turbo, and I traded it for this Ultra Street turbo. So that's kind of how we got that. We really tried the wheel and deal on everything for the car just to see
if you could do it.
If the average Joe could do it. And obviously it is a nice car because we have the capability, but the hot side of things, we still use truck manifolds. Like,
really?
People give us the hardest time. Like, man, you guys build beautiful headers, and you got these truck manifolds on your race car.
That's awesome.
And that was just kind of like to prove, like, you don't, like, it'd been nice to build a set of headers for it, but you don't have to. These work. And we have to weigh 3,400 pounds in DXP, so we needed the weight anyway.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man, that's sick. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, I sit here all the time looking at your pictures and stuff, Wait till I get my money right. My stuff will be down there for sure, But, but if you stay true to those people, I mean, a lot more of those people that can't afford that stuff is looking at your stuff, you know what I mean? You got to kind of keep them interested and be like, hey, look at this. You could do this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the long-term goal, man, is, we've kind of been working on our parts line, and we try to come out with a new part, at least one every couple months, and just kind of keep ramping that side of stuff up. And the 235 car is perfect for that. It's tried and true testing our rear end stuff. We got a lot of our personal products on the car, even though we didn't build the chassis. It's got a lot of Tense Ultra products on it, and then we've partnered with a lot of really good people. And the whole thing about the build was obviously this stuff's expensive, but just knowing where to spend your money. Like, it's got Mincer coilovers all the way around it. We're really tight with Mark. Like, Mark he's a great human being. Besides, like, he's obviously really good at what he does. But besides that, like, he's my buddy. Like, I love Mark Mincer. Like, he's just a good dude.
Yeah. So
my money will always go to him because he's my friend. But, he knows what he's doing. That's why. So spend the money where you need to and be able to get the track support, be able to get the stuff that matters. Just don't throw a cheap set of coilovers on the car if you're really trying to go out and go fast. You need tunability. You need all that stuff. And then Holly, it's been awesome. So
we've been working with Mark now for a few years, and he's been great to us. His product is unbelievable. Very smart guy. Very smart guy.
He loves cows more than he likes race cars.
Does he really?
Cows?
Yeah, he's got cows. And him and his wife, they have like a small farm, and Mark likes that more than I know he likes that more than he likes race cars.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You guys work with TRZ quite a bit?
We do, yeah. We know all the guys at TRZ, and they've been great. They actually they were one of Jack Vanover's supporters and sponsors, and so when we did Jack's car, we like kind of automatically became a TRZ dealer. And Mike and Todd, man, I really like those guys. They're a person that I would go and have a beer with. You know what I mean? Like, they're just good people. They like the 235 car, it's got TRZ anti-roll, but like our V8 package that we sell, it's set up for a TRZ anti-roll. So like for a stock suspension Mustang that sits kind of at stock ride height, you can't beat a TRZ anti-roll bar. It's the best.
Yeah,
so.
but my old man, he's been with TRZ a long time. He had parts on our old Camaro we used to run, and then when he built the Cutlass, like he ordered everything for a G-body. He called them up. we dropped the car off to the chassis shop, and we had all these TRZ parts. And EC1, Ernie Carrasco, that built the car, was like, I can build all this stuff. My dad's like, I just bought it for you. It's good to go. Put these on. You know, like. But my old man's a huge fan of them. I've never met Mike personally, but that's who he talks to all the time. So good dudes.
Yeah, they're great people, man. Yeah, good people. And there's so many people that are just, you know, I know sometimes you think that everyone's mean or whatever, but man, there's so many people that are just amazing, and they're just quality human beings. You know, that's what makes this stuff great.
Yeah, man. So what's plans for the summer?
What's on the books?
So we go. We're doing our own race this weekend.
Oh, really?
So we just have a little local racetrack to us called Vanover. We've been doing like a Friday night race. We did one last month, and we're going to do one this Friday. We're having one. We call it Simply Street Night. So it's just like a bunch of street cars, and we have some no time 10.5 stuff, and we're having a big tire class. And kind of the racetrack just reached out to us about helping them put these on, so that's been really fun. We got this Friday, and then we're supposed to do a couple more of them throughout the summer.
That's fun.
So now we didn't know it, but we're kind of drag racing promoters this year, which I don't wish that on anyone. It's kind of it's a harder job than I you know, after doing this for like a month, I want to go buy John Sears a beer, you know, because it's like, wow. So, and we have simple classes, you know, and so we're doing that, and then we have Ohio Valley Prize Fight, which is in a couple weeks, so not this weekend, but next weekend. We'll be down there with a 235 car, and we're supposed to test the ghetto sled maybe that Thursday before that race. Martin Conley's going to drive that for Curtis, which Martin is a fellow DXP competitor and just a phenomenal driver and one of my best friends. So,
and he has the orange Mustang, right?
Yeah, orange Mustang, and then he also has a silver Mustang that runs X, but it just hasn't been out for a few years. So,
okay.
Cool.
But they're primarily racing the DXP car. So that's you know, he's got a Bischoff motor, like a really nice small block Ford. So. That's what we always joke with him, you know, that our junkyard LS is just, you know, we're nipping at its heels. We're not quite as fast as Martin, but we're getting there. So like, and he weighs less than us, which, you know, if I could petition, you know, something there. But so I always try to race him. I was like, dude, you know, if you had any balls, you would race this stock LS motor at the same weight as your car, so we could weigh the same. And he hasn't bid on that grudge race yet, so you know I'm still waiting. But
offers out there.
Yeah, the offers out there, yeah, for sure. So, and then we'll race. We're going to do all the DXP races. So we have Prize Sight, and then there's one at Virginia Motorsports Park, which is the venue that Tyler Croston is running. So we'll go there, and I think that's in September. And we're actually probably going to take a break after Prize Fight. We probably won't race much because it gets really hot, and we got a lot of work to do in the shop. So just want to try to knock some stuff out when, you know, it's super hot. And in our car, like, it's fun to go take it other places, but I mean, it's purpose built for DXP. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's a good no time car. You know, I mean, it's for that. So after Virginia, then the next race would be No Mercy, and then there's a local race to us after No Mercy called Turkey Bash, which is a really good race, and Charlie Bennett puts that on, and he's talking about having DXP 235 there, so we'll probably run it there, which will be really fun.
And that's like Thanksgiving weekend, right?
Yeah, it's actually like it's right after No Mercy, so it's more in October now. He used to do it around Thanksgiving weekend, but the weather just was so unpredictable that he had to move it up. But the name just stuck. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's still Turkey Bash, but it's in October. So it's the weekend after No Mercy, and then we've decided that if we win some money at No Mercy or Turkey Bash, that we might try to go to the World Cup Finals and run our car quarter mile.
Really?
Because there's a crossover class that we could kind of fit in. I forget the name of it, but John was kind of working on a crossover class for EXP cars to go up there, which would be really fun. So, but that's a long drive for us. So if we win some money and we got some extra gas money, then we might go up there. So, and if my wife is still on board, I can do all that.
That sounds good. Yeah. I got one last question.
Yeah.
Before we get going here. And when you get in the shop and you got your earbuds in and you say you're racking out, what are you listening to?
So I have a bunch of different things that I like, and I actually really like rap music. That's kind of like my guilty pleasure, if I could be honest.
Nice.
Yeah, I love rap music, but typically in the morning, I'll listen to some really good worship music. Like I like Jesus Culture. And I like Mosaic and like Elevation Worship, stuff like that. I don't know, it just helps me get my day started in the right way. Yeah, so I like that. And then I really like some hard stuff too. Like there's a band called For Today, they're a Christian band, but they're kind of like they're more metal. And I like that, and like Rise Against. And, I kind of grew up in that. That kind of timeline, with the kind of like the punk rock stuff.
Like Bullet for My Valentine too?
Like What's that?
Like Bullet for My Valentine too?
Yeah, funny story. So when I had, when MySpace was cool, my MySpace song was Bullet for My Valentine.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you could just turn off 10 Soldier, but you still had the shop, and you had a year to build whatever you want.
Oh yeah.
Not a race car. I guess it could be a race car. Anything you wanted to build, and you had a year to do it. What would it be? Now let me tell you what I think you'd say.
Okay.
I think it'd be like a Cadillac with like suicide doors on it.
Now that you say that,
I do. So I actually really love square bodies.
Oh, that.
I have.
Yeah.
Like a big dually?
Well, so Brad and I, the dually that we use when we're racing around town is we have an 85 C30 dually that's in actually pretty good shape, and it's got Holley EFI on it. And,
sick.
I love it, So it's not loaded or anything because we tow the trailer with it, but that's still kind of on the to-do list. But yeah, I love square body trucks, and then I have a truck that it was one of the first things my wife and I bought when we got married. I have an 86 C10 that's a short bed 2-wheel drive that's lowered, and it's got like pro touring type wheels on it. They look like CCWs.
Yeah.
And I really like that truck, but it's slow as crap, man. It's just got a 305 and an automatic in it.
Yeah.
So if I had a year, I would build that truck. And it'd have a really, probably a supercharged LS engine, with a T56, and I would pull over, convert it, and I'd put a couple Recaros or Corbos or some really, really nice racing seats, simple roll bar.
Yeah.
It'd have Holley EFI on it, and I would make it so it would handle. I actually if I didn't love drag racing so much, I would, because I love to drive, man. I really do. Like I
Really?
love drive.
Yeah.
I want my C10 to handle. So that's what I've almost sold it a couple of times because I don't get to drive that much because, I got kids, I got a race car, all this stuff, and my wife's like, she won't let me get rid of it because she knows how much I love it, and I've already built this thing in my head like 6 different ways, So I guess once our kids get a little older and hopefully as the business grows, to be where it's more self-sufficient, that I can take some time and do that,
Yeah.
But
And then any color but green, right?
yeah, that green is horrible.
It's weird.
And
It's weird with guys into race cars and regular cars. My dad has this obsession with 80 Camaros, man, and they're like, I think they're kind of making a comeback. I don't know why, but
they are. I got a couple of them. I love
them. and he's had a bunch of them. Two decent race cars. But last summer he went out and bought one. He bought an all original one.
Yeah, a show car.
A driver.
Not a race car.
Not a race car at all. I mean, but this thing is nice. It's got all the stickers underneath the hood and the trunk, and
it's mint. It's nice.
Yeah, nice interior and stuff.
He has no idea what to do with it.
He doesn't even. I think he's scared of it. What he wants to do with it. And we caught him one day. He was driving in our little town. We live in a little 2-horse town. And he come down to the ice cream shop, and he's like looking around and stuff. We were laughing on the corner at him. And so I went over to his house, and that was like the first weekend he had it. And I'm like, is it fast? He goes, no, it's not fast.
I'm just driving it.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny seeing guys in like brutal brutal fast cars, and then they get into something like that,
It's nice, but
well, everybody makes fun of me because my daily driver is I think it's a what years? It's like a 2000 Accord that I bought at an auction.
Really?
So it's
That's
nothing cool.
Yeah.
It works.
But
Yeah.
But if I did have all the time too, race car wise, I would build. I really like the C7s, and I would build. I'd build an RVW car. As a driver, I'm not there yet, but I want to. I want to go threes, so hopefully, eventually I'll have something to go that fast, but I do believe it. I want to pace myself,
Yeah.
I don't want to just jump behind the wheel with something that fast.
Oh, yeah.
Me neither.
Well, hey, Jason, thanks for coming on, man. I can't thank you enough. Your team at Tin Soldiers sounds like it's solid. I know it's solid. I mean, you got a hell of a story, brother. And
thanks for sharing it with us.
Yeah, thanks, man.
You're welcome.
So
sorry I took so much of your time. I know.
Oh no!
No, every minute was great.
Every minute. This is what we're looking for, man. So.
Yeah, and hopefully we can maybe get with you again sometime.
Yeah.
We'll see you, I'm sure.
I got lots of things to say, and then if you guys are ever, if you're ever in Northern Kentucky or around Cincinnati, you're more than welcome to stop by the shop. We kind of have. I know a lot of people, they have a closed door kind of policy on their shop. If there's a grudge car or something in there, we'll keep it covered unless we're working on it. But I don't know. I believe building a race car, it has to be a fun experience because you don't have to do it. Yeah. And I just believe that people should be excited about this. So we kind of do have an open door policy where you can come and see the shop, and we unless we're working on a grudge car, we don't have anything to hide. So you can come on down and hang out. So.
That's
very
awesome,
cool,
man. Well, hey, man, you have a good evening, and thank you again.
Thanks again.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yep.
Have a good night.
Yep.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.